Hey there, name's Vornin. Nice to meet you. It's great to have so many new players joining the game lately, but I do notice that once they hit 50 and finish the first part of the story, they more often than not miss out on some really cool content, usually because of the sheer amount of things to do. The goal of each video in this series is to remedy that by giving you full information on what came out in the patch or expansion that you're playing through, and to list all that content in an easy to follow manner so you can make sure you're not missing anything. I'll provide a full to-do list and any personal recommendations at the end of the video for your pausing convenience. With all of that said, welcome to Final Fantasy XIV, or specifically the starting point for this series of videos, 2.0, A Realm Reborn. Now before we get into the list, I'd like to give some quick leveling advice. You get so much extra experience while leveling nowadays that you can easily level 3 or even 4 jobs if you do side quests and the occasional roulette. Keeping this in mind, in the Shadowbringers expansion you need one max level job of each role, being tank, healer, any physical DPS, and magical DPS, in order to be able to do the very important sub-story for that expansion. So I would recommend that on your journey you use all of this extra experience to level side jobs that you might be interested in that fit these roles. If you don't already have a healer or magic DPS, an Arcanist is the only job in the game that gives you 2 jobs in one, which are Scholar and Summoner, meaning that if you level one, the other levels up as well, so this is an easy way to get 2 roles leveled. I also recommend doing the Dragoon story before the first expansion, as it does have main story relevancy. Just switch jobs to occasionally churn in quests, or do a dungeon when one is getting too far ahead of the others, and you're getting free levels out of it, while also not seriously over-leveling your current content. Plus, this gives you the experience of trying out new roles, and potentially finding your new favorite. Though, new tanks out there, remember those trusty cooldowns for big boss attacks. Keybind them, use them. You'll be glad you did. If you'd prefer to stay on one job for a long time and level these later, that's totally fine, you have a while, but I would be remiss if I didn't once again insist on doing Dragoon, at least to level 50, for the story relevancy. Now then, since that's out of the way, let's get started on our list, shall we? Getting to level 50 and clearing the main story is obviously a given, so we'll start right after you get those lovely credits rolling. Congratulations! You made it through the great filter of Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn leveling. I'm happy to say things really only get better from each patch here on out. Our next story quest starts patch 2.1 storyline, so we'll be holding off on picking that up for now, but we will be picking up the first thing on our list, which is Hard Mode Primals. You begin these by speaking with Minfilia and picking up the quest A Recurring Problem. This will have you make your way over into the common room. While on the way past Arenvald, give him a nice gesture for being such a stand-up guy, and head on over to Odianger to churn our quest in. We have now unlocked our hard mode primals. Starting with the quest Ifrit Bleeds, We Can Kill It from Thancred, we'll begin the process of fighting the more powerful versions of our main story primals. You'll do these quests, one at a time, returning back to the sands after completing each one. These are pretty simple, but a step up from their normal counterparts, and drop weapons that you may still need. Besides, I know you were just waiting for an invitation to come crawling back to Garuda. What are you reading over there, Y'shtola? What's that say on the top left? Yeah, right there. Chapter 4, can't grow, when is he? Oh! How'd you find this? I was holding it for a friend of mine going through some hard times. Trust me, I would never need something like this. Now, for our dungeon variety in 2.0, we have 2 dungeons to do. Our first dungeon is offered to us by a young lady named Aline, hiding inconspicuously behind some random corner outside the Waking Sands. Apparently, she's heard about our knack for adventuring, and wants to let us in on a spot where she struck it rich when she ran in the treasure hunting crowd. You see, before the calamity, the lag-ridden landscape of Upper Lenosha was host to Bronze Lake, much like today. However, not like today, Bronze Lake was more akin to a bronze pond, surrounded by cliffs and valleys in the highlands of Lenosha. Deep below these cliffs and valleys, however, the kobolds were doing kobold things, and tunneled so much that it churned the ground beneath the lake into Swiss cheese. The calamity brought the full wrath of a dragon god and several million tons of rock crashing down upon the tunnels. The shift in the earth created a landslide, clearing the surrounding area and draining the lake, revealing a veritable palace that is still largely intact. Aline explains this is where she struck it rich with her boyfriend, who is nowhere in sight, maybe at the casino, and encourages us to go fill our pockets while the getting is good. What, you were expecting her to be clad in jewels? Head to toe in decorations? No, this is the face of modesty. She might live in the lap of luxury, the kind of luxury that allows her to spend all day behind the Waking Sands stoop, but she's not going to flaunt it. Hydaelyn bless you, Aline. You are an Eorzean treasure. She suggests heading to a former adventuring associate of hers, Abazi, in Upper Lenosha, for him to ferry us over to the ruins, which means a quick stop at everyone's favorite lakeside resort. Camp Bronze Lake. Paradise on Eorzea. All you can eat, all you can drink, the sights, the sounds, the clean healing waters. One could be forgiven for giving up this whole adventuring thing and just staying here. Maybe the real treasure was the resort we stopped at along the way. Wait, no. We can't get lulled into complacency by this siren song. Besides, if we strike it rich, we can buy our own paradise. Maybe even Costa del Sol. So we set off towards the base of the ruin to find her former co-worker at the dock, ready to ferry us over. Unfortunately, Abazi informs us that the truth of the matter is Aline and himself belonged to a party of 7 that went into the Nimian ruins only to be set upon by a population of tonberries that roam the halls, costing 5 of them, Aline's boyfriend included, their lives. Now she sends adventurers to their deaths in the hope that her boyfriend will be found and rescued by one of them. So if you were in the camp of people who suspected that Aline's name stood for always lying even now, extra E, then I have to commend you on your perception.
What a fucking liar, dude!
It seems the riches and retirement will have to wait. Will you brave the palace and placate the Tonberry's rancor? Or will you join the others that met their end in the Wanderer's Palace? Our second dungeon of 2.0 is next, but you'll need to have done the Orm Vale dungeon before you can do it, which starts with the quest Going for Gold from Nedrick Ironheart in Vesper Bay, who is apparently another standing right outside of the Waking Sands all day enthusiast. Once you've done that dungeon, Nedrick will now offer the quest Ghosts of Amdapor. Ned, have you met my friend Aline? She's right over there. Wave, Aline! You see, Ned here is so worried about our well-being that he's decided we should delve headfirst into an ancient unknown ruin. Are you noticing a trend? So that we don't shrivel up and die from literal boredom. What a pal. Luckily, he has the exact dirty details on such a place and tells us to talk to his buddy Maxine, who's guarding the place, before we get to trespassing. According to Maxine, the ancient keep belonged to the Amdapori people, who rose to power via mastery of white magics, which eventually brought about their end. As it goes, the keep was sealed away and lost from time deep within the Twelveswood until the Calamity revealed it once again. The remnants of the keep are now party to a lovely doomsday cult called the Lambs of Dalamud. Apparently they were a pretty big fan of the whole Calamity thing, but disappointed with Bahamut's ability to finish the job, they decided to take matters into their own hands. They've been attempting to resurrect the fallen moon, who they worship as a god, through sacrifice and void-sent ritual summoning. They've now made this their new home.
It's free real estate.
And have already been about their gruesome agenda within those walls. Break in, disrupt the cult, eliminate the void scent, and return tranquility to Amdapor Keep. Next up, we got an easy one. You should complete your Grand Company hunting log. A few of your targets are in dungeons, but for all the rest it only takes a few minutes to teleport around and massacre the local fauna. Made even easier now with flying. Thanks, Chocobo. Yeah, this bird has just as much blood on its hands as I do. And the completion of this log runs alongside our next step, which is leveling up in your Grand Company through the use of Grand Company seals. You can get seals quite quickly from your Duty Finder roulettes, hunting log completion, fates, and once your rank is high enough, you can also get them from churning in random dungeon gear that you don't need anymore. There are a couple quests, resources, hunting log tiers, and items behind these ranks, so you should work on this one as you go along. It's not the most urgent thing in the world. Our next task on the list is a big one. This is as important as the main story and unfortunately usually goes skipped by new players due to the difficulty involved. It would of course be the first part of the Binding Coil raid for 2.0. To begin, you must have now completed Ifrit, Garuda, and Titan, all on their harder difficulty. The name of the quest is Primal Awakening and is picked up at the Waking Sands Fermudi-Angers. The chances of successfully completing this through our random queue are very low. Simply because if you don't have players that already know the mechanics and what they're supposed to do, then this is going to be an exercise in frustration for you. This was in a time before they had difficulties for raids, and the story here being so important yet gated behind difficult content is why they changed the raid structure in the following expansion. Even though the fights have been slightly nerfed and the players are much stronger than they were originally at level 50, this was still from a very old raid and in a time when they were figuring out their mechanics and boss design, which meant that the mechanics themselves aren't very clear on how you're supposed to handle them. I recommend joining a free company that is willing to help you through this, or just recruiting in Party Finder. You should find some people willing to help. It's a helpful community. Whether you just want to be quickly carried by a few max level players, or you legitimately want to look up the strategies, make a group, and try to go in synced like a true warrior of late is totally up to you. I do highly recommend not skipping this though. You'd really be missing out, as anyone who's gone through it would tell you. Once you clear the Coil 5 fight and the following quest takes you to a natural stopping point, that's all for the raid for this patch. We'll return in 2.2. Lastly, we have our Relic Weapon quest, which begins with the quest The Weaponsmith of Legend from our good buddy Nedrick Ironheart outside of the Waking Sands. This is a cool quest line that builds some of the most detailed and occasionally ostentatious weapons in the game. You have the lovely company of a geriatric and a man so horrendously in debt that he's turned to hardcore alcoholism. Name a more capable duo able to forge the most powerful weapons in the realm. I'll wait. Obviously, these are mostly for glamour purposes at this point, but there is a new relic in each expansion, and the characters inside of these quests are usually brought forward and will remember doing the other relics with you. So, while I do recommend doing them in order for the expansions, I don't really recommend new players binge this at the start, simply because I don't want you stuck grinding for 2 weeks in A Realm Reborn content and getting burned out when you could get a ton done and be well into Heavensward at that time. For this, I would say do it when you have some free time to grind, or just come back and work on it later for the titles and weapon glamours. Now I'd like to add some quick quests that were not available in 2.0, but are things that you should get unlocked and get started with right away, as they don't necessarily have a place in any particular patch, and you'll want to start working on them now so you don't miss out on progression with these when you need not have. First up is the Hunt, unlocked at your respective Grand Company headquarters by the name of Let the Hunt Begin, from your respective Grand Company Lieutenant. You'll need to have max rank in your Grand Company in order to pick this one up. This involves doing hunting board bounties each day and killing powerful boss monsters that rarely spawn in the open world in order to get hunt seals, which can be used at the Hunt Quartermaster to buy a wide variety of minions, items, and cosmetics. You didn't hear it from me, but give this guy enough seals and you'll get the suck. Next are 2 PvP quests from your Grand Company headquarters by the name of A Pup No Longer and Like Civilized Men and Women. These unlock some PvP battlegrounds and the main PvP hub with the various vendors and a dueling arena. Apparently people PvP in this game. I tried it once 6 years ago and I've never forgotten that day, nor have I tried it since. If this sounds like your thing, then go for it. Let me know how it is. There are pretty cool rewards for placing highly, like exclusive mounts and trophies for your house. The next one requires being max rank with your Grand Company, and it's your Adventurer Squadron. It unlocks via your Personnel Officer, and is a neat little system of recruiting adventurers and commanding them to do time missions for pretty nice rewards, like experience increase and reduced teleporting cost tickets. You can choose who joins your squadron through a pretty big list of recruits that you can Google to see what they look like and how to get each one. You can also dress them up however you'd like, and take them into a few basic dungeons if the queue times are especially bad for you. Following that, we have the Golden Saucer, which is everyone's favorite casino. It unlocks via the quest It Could Happen to You from the Wheel-Heeled Youth in Ul'dah. Come, get your gamba on and have a blast with the myriad activities, like getting addicted to scratchers, marching small animals off to war, getting sneezed on, mahjong. What the fuck is going on? Forcing your avian allies to suffer through infuriating street racing, just fucking demonstrations on aggressive gardening techniques, becoming just another statistic, and so much more. Pretty much every quest here leads to a new minigame and something to collect and go do, so go have a great time and get lost in the sauce. It's all legal. Look, this guy even brought his daughter and dog. Anything goes. Next is the Aesthetician. This unlocks the barber for changing your appearance whenever you'd like. It begins with the quest Beauty is Only Scalp Deep from Sidhabji? Okay. Who is located in the Drowning Wench in Limsa Laminza. This quest is quite the experience. I think you're gonna love it. One of the things I love about this game is how every single thing is justified in story. It could easily have just been a barbershop or a menu, but instead it's turned into a fantastic little quest that's pretty memorable. Lastly, we have our daily quests. These involve working with the various beast tribes of Eorzea by doing dailies each day, which raise your reputation, and once you get to each new tier of reputation, it unlocks a new story segment for that tribe, new daily quests, and new things to purchase from their vendor, eventually including a mount and minions. You can only do 12 dailies a day, and starting out at the base rep level only gets you 3 dailies from each tribe to start with. Whether you want to focus on one at a time or bring them all up together evenly is up to you. I do definitely recommend doing the Ixal dailies, as this is an insanely easy way to level your crafting classes, getting 1 to 3 crafting levels a day depending on which dailies you do for them, plus this rep takes longer to cap out than the others. The Ixal start with the quest A Bad Bladder from Serpent Lieutenant Scarlet in Gridania. The Amalja start with Peace for Thanalan from Flame Commander Swift in Ul'dah. The Sylphs start with Seeking Solace from Serpent Commander Vorsail in Gridania. The Kobolds start with Highway Robbery from Storm Lieutenant Trackrate in Limsa Laminza. And the Sahagins start with They Came from the Deep from Storm Commander Rashhat in Limsa Laminza. Once you get all 5 reputations to max, there is a secret quest that shows up at your Grand Company headquarters that is really amazing. You don't want to miss it. So there we have it, a full 2.0 checklist with a few bonus recommendations. The next patch and expansion videos will be much more concise. The Realm Reborn era was an experimental time where they tried a bunch of things to see what stuck. Some only exist in this section of the game, and others continue all the way to current. They really found their stride and formula in the first expansion, and iterated so well on it each patch and expansion after. Thanks so much for watching if you made it all the way through. I made this video for people like me who are chronological completionists, but also wanted it to be entertaining for everyone. This is the first video I've ever made, so a rating and a comment with feedback would be great. I will read everyone. Other than that, think about subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video for patch 2.1. Take care. Next up is an easy one. You should complete your Grand Company hunting log.